A, which we have deemed the Sprinter.
This is for you as you came in your running clothes. All running analogies, all right? So
that's why you had to come up with the names, because running analogies and me, not too good. But this is the Sprinter, so we assumed that they came in with a bachelor's degree for their first 4 years of service, a master's degree for their next 6, and then they had their plus 30 all the way through to the end of their 35 years. So as we went through, we kind of took them and ran them through the 4 different schedules. And the way each one of these will work is I'll show each one kind of individually, and then there will be a summary table at the end, which will allow you to kind of look at that teacher in every number I'm going to show you. All right, so if for some reason you're like, oh man, if you're scribbling down information, you have questions, there will be a summary table at the end of each teacher that will kind of sum all that up and give you everything in one slide. So as we went through Teacher A, the Sprinter, the 20-year salary schedule, you see we kind of determined 3 things. We determined their career earnings, so what they would have as they went through the salary schedule for 35 years on their path. We determined their retirement earnings, so what they would earn with whatever their average of their top 3 years was. And then we added in per month there, just to give you an idea of what that would be per month. And then finally their lifetime earnings, which is just those 2 things together. So their teaching career plus their retirement and their lifetime earnings. So as you look here at the 20-year salary schedule, we kind of gave you the numbers all the way through just to kind of get an idea. So here, Teacher A, our Sprinter, on the 20-year salary schedule is going to have a career earnings as their 35 years of teaching of $2,685,068. And then their retirement earnings that they would have for those 30 years that we assume would be $2,597,542, which actually comes out to right around $7,215 per month. So we looked at the retirement benefit, divided it out, obviously before taxes, all that good stuff. Uncle Sam gets his piece of the pie, all those things. This is just kind of a gross number for your gross revenue that you would have before you would pay anything to the government, so to speak. Okay, and then the lifetime earnings would be the $5,282,610. So that would be Teacher A going through the 20-year salary schedule. And once again, a 20-year salary schedule simply is you go up to step 20, and when you stop at step 20, you don't go up anymore except for any % increase that is bargained into the schedule.
and that's important. It's not a 20-year retirement. It's 20 years, and then your salary is capped. It does not go up from there. And the only time it goes up, like Matt said, if you put a percentage into the whole schedule, it moves the entire schedule forward a little bit. That top number will go up a bit, but if you ever look at districts that have a capped schedule like this, that top number never goes up like a whole lot. It's not like, the whole schedule moves forward and the top number goes up by like $6,000 or anything. It's always a few $100 usually, unless there's, and so essentially, as someone who's at the top of that schedule, that's the highest you're going to reach with a little bit for the rest of your career. All right.
And we kind of had that discussion in the last meeting. For those of you who were with us, it's the philosophy in those districts that have schedules such as this, that if you're in year 33, the Sprinter, you'll be making the same salary as someone in year 20. However, there's benefits and drawbacks to every way you cut the pie, and you'll kind of see that as we go forward. So then the 25-year schedule, so we're just kind of lengthening the schedule a little bit out, allowing movement throughout the schedule for a little bit longer. So here you'll see career earnings of $2,616,649. We do have a little bit of an increase in our retirement earnings. Here you'll have $2,608,558. And then finally the lifetime earnings as well. So the 25-year schedule, you can kind of see the numbers look a little different. The only real difference between the two schedules is once you get to year 25 now instead of year 20, you'll essentially stop. And the only growth you'll see is whenever there is any percent applied into the schedule. So you will stop. If year 33 is going to make the same as someone on step 25. But once again, we're cutting the pie in a different way. And we'll kind of discuss that as we go through. Then you look at the 25-year schedule with longevity. As you look at that, once again, longevity, just to kind of go through and look at this, that means where we're just going to have a couple pauses, essentially, in the salary schedule. If you're in year 15, maybe when you go to year 16, you'll assume a step increase, but the salary won't go up. The salary will be the same as year 15. But in year 17, typically in the districts we research, there is a little bit of an additional bump. So I don't want to call it a makeup or anything like that, but there is a little bit of an additional bump standard that we've seen in our research of those salary schedules. But we found it kind of interesting enough, and there were districts that had a variety of things that we wanted to at least kind of model it out with our hypotheticals.
And can I speak to that a little bit? So when you hear the word longevity, it's important that you know that we are not talking about longevity in a Rockwood longevity fashion, all right? The way we do longevity is unique, I think, in the state. I can't think of another district that does it, for good or for bad. Our definition of longevity is I get to the top of the base schedule, then we add a class of people every year, and we continue to add a class, essentially, at least the way we've operated in the past, unchecked, like you just can't keep adding, and there's no end in sight to what you add at the top of the schedule. And each of those classes every year, when you negotiate, in the negotiations year, receives like an actual percentage increase in their salary, as opposed to being capped. All right, so we don't mean longevity in that way. We mean longevity, as Matt described it, as when you're in a district for a certain amount of time, you pause, they pause you for maybe 2 years, hypothetically speaking, and then in that third year, you all of a sudden realize a big bump, okay? And when I say big, it's bigger than maybe a percentage raise that someone might experience normally, but it's not like you're coming into, tens of thousands of dollars more bump. It's, I'm trying to remember the ones we looked at technically, like it would be like $5,000 maybe, something like that. Yeah, so.
It's almost essentially saying, okay, we're going to pause you and then give you back what you had, or what would have had if you would have moved. So I don't know why districts have done that. I'm sure there's reasonings, and once again, that's all established in their bargains, and it just shows you that their bargains are different than our bargains. The salary schedules are all different. So another reason why we kind of went to these hypothetical models to pull out that emotion. So you can see the career earnings here. I don't know that I'm going to read each one of these. I was going to tell my kids that when I'm teaching, you guys can read, so I'm going to kind of talk as you go and read those numbers. And this is going to be given to everyone on the video. But you can see the career earnings and the retirement earnings. We see a little increase in the retirement earnings as well, and then the lifetime earnings, and then the 35-year salary schedule, where basically you will always move throughout your career. There's benefits and drawbacks to that, as there is everything we do. This is probably kind of the closest to Rockwood, but Rockwood is really interesting in the fact that we don't have an end game. There is no end cap to Rockwood's salary schedule. If the class doesn't all retire out, then the schedule grows. And if a class retires out, the schedule shrinks. So that's what also made it very hard for us to kind of compare, because it's kind of like an accordion. It could expand, and then one year it may come back in a little bit, and then it may go back out again. And so it kind of made it difficult. So that's why we went with a 35-year, because that's I don't want to say a fully safe assumption. I know we have some teachers, some that were mine, that have stayed longer than 35 years, but that encompasses most everyone that has an educational career, 35 years in the field. So basically, you can see the career earnings there as well of $2,428,920, and the retirement benefit and the lifetime earnings. So kind of in summary for the Sprinter, this kind of lets you to kind of look at all the different salary schedules in the districts. So what you can see here, we kind of put in bold. We have the career earnings here. We have the retirement earnings here. The lifetime earnings here. Here will be our 20-year salary schedule, our 25-year salary schedule, that 25-year with that longevity pause, so to speak. And then the 35-year schedule. What we did, I kind of went through and bolded the numbers that came out the highest in that capacity. So you can kind of see that the 20-year salary schedule did gain the highest career earnings, as well as the highest lifetime earnings. But in the retirement earnings, the longevity pause was the highest. And then we kind of threw that monthly in there, just because I think a lot of us tend to budget our lives monthly, and not that I'm going to have this monster number of $2 million in retirement. Most of us live our lives on our monthly salary and what we get. So we try to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like monthly, because it's real easy to get lost in numbers. So we try to kind of drill that down a little bit to give you something that may be more how you think. So you can see that the longevity has a $7,267 a month. Then we go to $7,246. And we had $7,215 per month. And finally the 35-year, which is $7,174 a month. So when you kind of go monthly, it kind of shapes those numbers in a different fashion for you to look at. Once again, to kind of show you a little bit of how this looks, once again, no decisions being made. I'm not influencing anything. When you have a 20-year salary schedule, it allows a little more predictive nature, so to speak. From what I've kind of found from researching this is when someone stops and doesn't grow, you can kind of predict, and when you have to stretch the pie out longer, it may take you a little longer to get there. And what we've seen with salary schedules that tend to be longer, we've seen any that are 27 years, 28 years, something like that. You do see a higher end number than a 20-year schedule. So you do realize some higher things at the end of the salary schedule, no doubt. But the jumps, the way the retirement benefit is determined is on a 3-year average of your highest career earnings in consecutive years. So if the analogy I've kind of used is kind of like $87,000 in your, let's call it your 33rd year, $90,000 in your 34th year, and $93,000 in your 35th year. Okay, so you're going to have a grand total of $270,000. I have a couple of my math teachers here from when I was in school, so they could check me on that. But that's that. If you were to look at the 20-year or 25-year, or even the 25-year with longevity, if it was $90,000, $90,000, $90,000, it would be the same earnings in that 3-year period. In that scenario, you would actually get $3,000 a little earlier at the front end, and the retirement benefit, which is probably the most important piece of that, would be the same. Because once again, the retirement benefit, because I know we have people here who are in their beginning years of teaching, we have people here who are closer to retirement years, it's that consecutive 3 years of your highest earnings. So that can kind of dictate that. So when you have a longer schedule, if you have bigger bumps at the end, let's say it's $2,000 per year, that's going to bring that retirement benefit down a little bit. So hopefully that made sense. If not, feel free to ask me a question on that, and I'll do my best to answer it. But that's kind of a summary table of what the sprinter's career and lifetime would look going through those 4 different scenarios.